In 2014, a team of researchers at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention embarked on a massive project. They wanted to answer a simple but elusive question. What is the single healthiest food on Earth? They took 47 of the most common superfoods, kale, spinach, blueberries, broccoli, and measured them against 17 nutritional criteria per 100 calories. They were looking for the most rigorous, objective answer science could provide. What they found shocked them. The archive opens in 1850s London, where the poor man's bread wasn't bread at all. It was a leaf, a peppery, water-soaked leaf that kept children alive through winters that would have broken them. The CDC would later score it 100 out of 100. At the bottom of the list, foods we don't usually think of as nutritious. Blueberries, scored 11 out of 100. In the middle, the so-called superfoods. Kale scored 49. Spinach, 86. But at the very top of the list, with a perfect score of 100 out of 100, was a plant most Americans have never tasted. Watercress. Watercress, a small, peppery green that grows in cold, flowing water. 100 out of 100. Not 99, not 95. A perfect score. It contains more calcium per gram than milk, more iron than spinach, more vitamin C than oranges, and a compound called phenethyl isothiocyanate. That's phenethyl. Isothiocyanate. That early studies suggest may suppress cancer cell growth. This wasn't close. This was the single most nutrient-dense food on Earth, according to the most rigorous nutritional study ever conducted. And yet, if you walk into a typical American supermarket today, you probably won't find it. If you ask 10 people on the street if they've ever tasted watercress, 9 will say no. How does the healthiest food on Earth, confirmed by the CDC, backed by rigorous science, become nearly invisible? This is not a mystery. This is a case study in what happens when logistics matter more than nutrition. Before we go back to Victorian London, quick question. Have you ever seen watercress in your supermarket? Comment below. To understand what we lost, you have to go back to Victorian England. 4 in the morning. London's air is thick with coal smoke. The streets are crowded with children, some as young as 5 years old, carrying wicker baskets stacked high with watercress, still wet from the streams of Hampshire, still alive. They shout, "Fresh watercress, a penny a bunch." For London's working poor, watercress wasn't a garnish, it wasn't a luxury, it was survival. They called it poor man's bread. A bunch of watercress cost 1 penny. A loaf of bread cost 2. For families living on the edge of starvation, watercress delivered more nutrition per penny than almost any other food available. It was eaten for breakfast, on bread with butter, in soups, raw by the handful. Mothers fed it to children during the long, gray winters when other greens disappeared. When a child's face looked pale, when energy dropped, watercress was the answer. The Victorians didn't know about vitamin C or iron or calcium, but they knew watercress worked. They could see it. They could feel it. And the system that supplied it was remarkable. There was a railway line. Locals called it the Watercress Railway, that ran from the streams of Hampshire to the markets of London. Farmers would cut watercress at dawn. Within 4 hours, it was on the streets of London, still dripping with stream water. Not 4 days, 4 hours. This wasn't a luxury supply chain. This was infrastructure built around the biological reality of watercress. It's alive, and it dies fast. As the 20th century dawned, something changed. In 1894, a seed company called Burpee released a new variety of lettuce. They called it Iceberg, because it could be shipped on ice from California to New York and arrive looking fresh. Iceberg lettuce had a secret weapon: structure. It wasn't a loose leaf. It was a tight, compact head, layers wrapped around layers. And that structure made it nearly indestructible. You could pack Iceberg into a crate, stack the crates into a rail car, ship it across the country, and 2 weeks later, it still looked perfect. Crisp, green, identical. In 1919, Americans ate an average of 4.1 pounds of lettuce per person per year. By the 1950s, that number had tripled, and almost all of it was Iceberg. The technology that made this possible was called vacuum cooling. In the 1930s and 40s, engineers developed a system that could rapidly cool lettuce by lowering air pressure. It was like putting lettuce in a refrigerated wind tunnel. But here's the key. Vacuum cooling worked best on dense, compact heads. Iceberg's tight structure was perfectly suited to the technology. Loose-leaf greens like watercress, they'd wilt, they'd collapse. The technology and the crop co-evolved. Iceberg wasn't just a product. It was a product designed for a system. But what about watercress? Watercress was a nightmare for the new system. 93% of its body is water, completely hollow inside. Cut it from the stream, you only have a few hours. Not days, just a few hours. Before it starts dying. Leaves turn yellow. Stems collapse. There's no way to preserve it. It actually dies. Meanwhile, Iceberg lettuce can sit in a warehouse for 28 days and still look fresh. Watercress? 2 to 3 days tops. If you're lucky, that's a 10 times difference. And as the 20th century progressed, the American food system centralized. Warehouses got bigger. Distribution centers got fewer. The average distance from farm to table grew from 50 miles to 1,500 miles. For Iceberg, this was fine. Stack it, ship it, store it, sell it. For watercress, it was a death sentence. The Watercress Railway, that 4-hour supply chain from Hampshire to London, closed in 1963. There was no business case for maintaining infrastructure for a crop that died in days when the entire system was optimizing for crops that lasted weeks. By the 1970s, watercress farming in the UK had collapsed. In the 1960s, there were over 1,000 acres of commercial watercress beds. By the 1980s, that number had fallen to 150 acres, a 90% reduction. Watercress didn't fail because people stopped liking it. It failed because the logistics system was built for something else. And here's what we traded. Iceberg lettuce, the crop that won, scored 7 out of 100 in that CDC study. Not 70, not 17, 7. Iceberg lettuce is 96% water. It has almost no chlorophyll, very little fiber, minimal vitamins. In nutritional terms, it's essentially crunchy water. Watercress scored 100. Iceberg scored 7. We didn't trade a good food for a slightly better food. We traded the most nutritious plant on Earth for one of the least nutritious plants you can eat. And we did it for shelf life. There's a reason Iceberg lasts 28 days in a warehouse. It's because there's almost nothing in it to decay. No dense nutrients, no rich compounds, just water and cellulose. Watercress dies in 3 days because it's alive. It's packed with vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, bioactive compounds. Those things are fragile. They break down. But those are the things your body needs. Watercress contains phenethyl isothiocyanate, a compound that early research suggests may help prevent cancer. Iceberg contains almost none. Watercress has 4 times the calcium of milk per gram. Iceberg has trace amounts. Watercress was keeping Victorian children alive through winters. Iceberg is a vehicle for ranch dressing, the system optimized. but it optimized for the wrong variable. So let me ask you, which matters more to you? 28 days on a truck or 100 out of 100 in your body? That's the trade we made. Let me know in the comments. By the 1980s, 90% of watercress growers in the UK had quit. The 1,000 acres that fed Victorian England had shrunk to 150 acres. In the United States, watercress never even stood a chance. It was relegated to a garnish, a sprig of green on the side of a plate that most people pushed aside. When the CDC published that study in 2014, the study that ranked watercress as the most nutritious food on earth, I spoke to a farmer in Hampshire who had been growing watercress for 40 years. He said, "We've been telling people this for years. Nobody listens. They want what's convenient. They want what lasts. They don't want what's best." And he was right. The Victorians didn't need a CDC study to know watercress was valuable. They knew because they saw it. When children ate watercress all winter and stayed strong while others got sick, they noticed. When watercress-eating families had fewer deaths, they noticed. Knowledge moved through communities, through kitchens, through mothers and grandmothers who watched and remembered. It was slow, but it was real. We lost that. Now we trust what comes in bags with barcodes and nutritional labels printed in fine print. We trust what's convenient, what lasts. We forgot how to trust what's alive. The Victorians did not have mass spectrometers. They didn't measure phenylethyl isothiocyanate levels. They didn't know about antioxidants or free radicals, but they had something we've lost: a connection to the land, an ability to observe, to notice. They knew watercress worked not because a study told them, but because they felt it. They saw it in their children's faces. They felt it in their own bodies. That kind of knowledge, embodied knowledge, lived knowledge, doesn't fit on a nutrition label. And when we replaced local food systems with centralized supply chains, we didn't just lose watercress. We lost the ability to know food that way. But watercress didn't die. It's still here. Whole Foods carries it year-round, usually in the produce section near the herbs. Farmers markets in spring and fall. Online. Johnny's Selected Seeds, True Leaf Market. Look for bright green bunches with a peppery smell. Avoid yellowing leaves. It'll cost about $4 for a bunch versus Iceberg's $2. But remember, you're buying 100 out of 100, not 7. Can you grow it at home? Yes. Watercress grows in shallow water or very moist soil. If you're in USDA zones 7 through 11, you can grow it outdoors year-round in a container. 6 inches deep, keep the soil wet, indirect sunlight. Zones 3 through 6, grow it indoors near a window. Harvest in 4 to 6 weeks. It's a cut-and-come-again crop. One warning: if you forage wild watercress from streams, there's a risk of liver flukes, parasites from contaminated water. Only harvest from clean, fast-flowing water and wash thoroughly. Or stick with store-bought cultivated watercress. It's safer. How do you eat it? Raw in salads or smoothies? It has a peppery kick, similar to arugula. Cooked in soups or stir-fries, though you'll lose some nutrition with heat. Storage: 2 to 3 days maximum. Keep the stems in water like flowers. Start small. The flavor is strong. 1 cup a day is plenty. The Victorians ate it on bread with butter and salt. You can do the same, or toss it in your morning eggs. The point is, it's not exotic. It's a leaf, just the most nutritious one on earth. The tragedy is not that we stopped eating watercress. The tragedy is that the system optimized for the wrong variable. Systems optimize for what they can measure. And what the 20th century food system could measure was: how long does it last? How far can it ship? How much can we stack? They didn't measure: how alive is it? How nutrient dense? How much does it nourish? This isn't about watercress. This is about what we value, what we prioritize, what we're willing to lose in exchange for convenience. Watercress scored 100 out of 100. We chose 7. That wasn't an accident. That was a decision. Next time you're in the produce aisle, walk past the pyramids of Iceberg. Find the watercress in the corner. It won't last a month on a shelf, but that's the point. It's alive. We are bringing back what they tried to erase, one bunch at a time. Every time you choose watercress over Iceberg, you're choosing 100 over 7. You're choosing nutrition over convenience. You're choosing what the Victorians knew and the system forgot. If knowledge like this shouldn't be lost again, you know what to do. This is Nature's Lost Vault, digging up the history the modern world tried to bury. The archive never closes.